So welcome everybody, and thank you very much for joining our fireside chat today with the CEO of Revolut Europe, Joe Hinahan. Joe, it's a pleasure to have you with me, and I'm really happy to start talking about this important topic of global digital banking and what the future of global digital banking is all about. So thank you for joining me today.
No problem, great to be here.
And I think maybe we start out, with a personal experience. About 6 years ago, I remember I met Nick Storonsky, Revolut's founder, at a FinTech conference in London, and spoke to him about his thoughts, his vision for Revolut, which was very impressive already. And now, of course, 6 years later, you have become a global unicorn, one of the most successful FinTech companies globally. And so you have joined 2 years ago. So what can you explain to our audience, to our guests, what is really the secret sauce behind Revolut's success?
Okay, well, I suppose there's lots of things that go into it. I think possibly the greatest thing is a constant focus on innovation. So that's the internal pressure we keep up on ourselves. And we've lots of product teams, and that's kind of a big emphasis in terms of what we're trying to do and deliver new things for the customer. Even throughout the pandemic, we've managed to maintain this focus and throughput in terms of new products and propositions. And it's very much driven from the founders, both Nick and Vlad at the top, and a mission that they've set where we want to make everything to do with money 10 times better than it is today for customers. So that's what we're setting out to do. Now, it's a great ambition to have to do that. How you do it then is what's challenging and difficult to do. I think one of the values that makes a big difference for us is our value of never settle. So we know that if we want to dislodge a customer, make them try out our service and do something different than their normal pattern, what we build for them has to be fantastic. It has to be amazing. So that drive for quality and that never settle value is really important. Everything we do has to be perfect if we want to launch it, and that's what gets you the wow factor with customers. That's what makes them kind of sit up and notice and think, well, this was really cool or a great experience, and then they'll go and they'll tell someone. And that's been a huge part of our growth engine is self-referral or consumers just telling friends and family. So you've got to kind of find a way to achieve that and then maintain it over time. It can't be a one-off. You have to keep delighting that customer. The other important thing is to listen to their feedback on an ongoing basis. So you can't just rest in your laurels at any point. You have to constantly look for their feedback, analyze what they're doing, ask them what they like and don't like, and then to take that kind of insight and turn it into something that becomes a beautiful and amazing and elegant product for a consumer, and requires you to have really amazing people. So if you want to be the best, you have to hire the best. And that's a really important part of what we're about. We want to really attract the best talent. If we do that, I think you're a long way on the journey to being able to achieve the kind of success and the hyper growth that we're achieving at the moment.
I think very good points, Joe. This complete customer centricity, customer focus, and everything what you do is really key to your success. And to keep this up ongoingly, of course, is not easy, but I think you've managed to do that again and again. And initially, when Revolut started out as a prepaid card, and over time became a global challenger bank. And where do you see the key priorities now going forward?
Yeah, I mean, the evolution from where it started as a single customer problem around really just Nick really feeling that he's paying foreign exchange fees as a personal consumer, that a larger market participant would never pay. So it's one of our key initial pain points that we solve for customers is to give them an interbank type rate on a foreign exchange, and it has slowly but steadily grown from there. So something like that, much better value, turns out to be hugely popular. I suppose that shouldn't have been a surprise. And then we start to realize that, well, there's other areas where we can be different and we can add value for customers, like in the payment space. I mean, I would say there's a wave of digitization in personal financial services that is still in many ways in the early days, and there's lots more to come. And I think the kind of infrastructure and technical capability that's available to us means you can build really impressive payments and services for customers. So I think that's the next step of where it moves to. And again, it becomes very popular because an instant payments experience for some consumers is a new experience if it wasn't available to them previously. And I think that leads us on to a realization that there are lots of aspects of financial services that we can disrupt, that we can do 10 times better than they're available at the moment. And that's really the ambition. And it's a very high bar to set for yourself, but that's what we want to deliver for customers, both retail consumers and businesses. And it kind of takes us to where the strategy is today around really driving the creation of a global financial super app. And we think that, you know, being able to do everything in one app in your pocket, for different financial services, different things to do with your money, where you spend your money, is really powerful. That it's more convenient, and that there's, you know, synergies in that and benefits to customers. In many ways, you know, a traditional institution might say, well, that's what we do, and that's what traditional institutions try to do, is offer lots of services from the one place. But we think that can be digitized and can be done from a super app. So we think that's quite exciting. And if that's a priority and a vision for us, we think that's going to enable fast growth and hyper growth. And looking ahead, that's what we really want to achieve, even taking it on further from where we are today. We've had some amazing success stories. Ireland is one of those. I mean, we've reached 50% penetration of our target kind of adults segment in Ireland, which is huge to achieve that, and it's particularly exploded in the last couple of years. So that's interesting, and it means that it creates the platform then to offer more things through the app to customers, and it obviously shows us that if we can do it in Ireland, can we do this, and can we replicate the success in other countries? So that's what's exciting for us as a business. Other priorities would be to do more for businesses. And that's where business customers have a similar service but enhanced to adjust for what they need. So we think there's opportunities for there. We clearly, as a priority, want to maintain this pace of innovation. We think that's one of the things that sets us apart. And we want to take our story to more and more customers in more and more places, and more customers around Europe, but also further afield. And we've expanded out to places like the States, Australia, Singapore, and Japan, and we're now exploring Mexico and Brazil, and India. So they're kind of priorities for us looking into next year.
Fantastic. So global expansion strategy as well. And of course, you're building an ecosystem around you. You know, you've got both fintech startups, fintech scale-ups, working with them as suppliers, as partners. You're working with financial institutions. And can you tell us more why such an ecosystem strategy is important to better service both your business to consumer strategies, also your business to business clients, and why, you know, this being at the center of an ecosystem which you're building is key?
Yeah, look, I mean, there's so many different players and potential partners that any firm can use. For us, fintechs are a great fit because they're kind of like us. Naturally, they're kind of trying to do things fast. They're kind of dynamic. They're probably using newer technology, which suits us because that's what we'll be using. So there's a kind of a meeting of minds when you want to partner with a fintech. So that can be, and you know, moving fast is vital for success a lot of the time, especially for a new or young business. So our choices will be driven by the need to kind of deliver better things and deliver faster for customers. So we want to deliver a brilliant service and differentiate ourselves. If we can do that through a partnership with a fintech, we'll do it. I think also, though, I wouldn't discount the importance of traditional partners, traditional financial institutions as well. In some cases, you know, one part of their business could see us as a competitor, but another part sees us as a potential customer. So we, of course, we partner with existing players in the industry as well to great success. I think that's the thing. How can we kind of leverage this, you know, and put ourselves in a place in this ecosystem to basically do things differently? And one of our great partners is TrueLayer on the fintech side for providing open banking services. We were the first to kind of launch that on a mass scale in Ireland. So that's a very valuable partnership. Also in wider ways, we look at partnerships with new players, like we've done a partnership with a company called Watershed to focus on green initiatives and carbon analysis, carbon footprint for ourselves. So, you know, that just goes to show that we won't limit our partnerships in any particular way. At another level altogether, we see our customers as potential partners for each other as well. It'll be a different dimension, but I think it's a good point that thinking about yourself as playing a role in an ecosystem or as a platform is probably a sensible thing to do, the way the world is changing and the way the industry is changing. So we definitely see places where we can connect our business customers with our retail customers to their advantage in both cases.
Yes, I definitely can see that, you know, those synergies among your partners. And one, of course, question I think everybody asks themselves, you know, seeing Revolut having grown from a small company to, you know, more than 2,000 employees over 6 years, how can you keep this entrepreneurial spirit alive? You know, how can you keep your culture intact to make decisions quickly, to innovate fast? You know, what can you share in terms of advice, tips with other companies who want to follow into your footsteps? How are you managing that?
Yeah, so Revolut's very interesting. We've a real multicultural feel in the organization because we've over 80 different nationalities in the staff, speaking over 100 languages, and we operate from 24 offices around the world in terms of when you think about offices, but of course so many people are working from their homes now. So we have a great diversity of background, and that also helps us to attract the best talent because we're not limiting ourselves in terms of where we look for the talent. And everyone, I suppose, here knows about the challenges of attracting talent. The other thing I think that's been a major factor in the pandemic that's relevant now is the approach to flexible working and where people are working. So we've had a very successful 18 months. We've traded through the pandemic really well, minimal disruption, continue to be able to launch and build and launch new products and expand into new regions of the world. So that's all good, but I think we've recognized the impact on staff, the toll it has taken for them to be not doing the social interaction of work as they were used to. So we feel we're leaders now in kind of flexible working strategy, and we've allowed our staff to say, their home place is their first place of work, and then they come to the office when they need it. We've also introduced a policy to say people can work from abroad, from a different country for up to 60 days in a year. And that, if you want to go and get sunshine and work for 3 weeks in another European country where it's still sunny, you can do that with Revolut. So we think that kind of flexibility will keep people engaged and keep the energy level up and keep people kind of firing in this kind of entrepreneurial way that we need them to fire, which is kind of in a fast-paced, highly energetic way. Now, people would also say, well, what happens to the office? And for us, we've thought about that and we've kind of adapted our office strategy, and we call it Rev Labs, but it just means that when you come to the office, we'd expect that now it's more to meet sometimes your team, to collaborate with teams, and therefore we've kind of rebalanced it from rows of desks into more meeting spaces and not that many desks anymore. So I think that should help when we get more people back to the office, to give people a reason to say, look, actually, I'm missing out on this connection, I'm missing out on this chat, or there's a project I want to collaborate on and I don't just want to do it on video and with other tools, I want to do it face to face. So I think there's a combination of things about the company that will help us to maintain this challenge and pace. I do think in terms of being very clear about what you want to achieve, both across a year and then in shorter chunks across quarters, is vital. And we're very focused on that. So if we want to achieve something in a year, well, we'll break it down into steps and we'll do it across 4 quarters. So we want to achieve something in each quarter. And I think that kind of energy around your ambitions to achieve something in the next quarter is useful as well in terms of trying to keep everyone focused and energized towards a finish line on a regular basis. So I think they're all things that will help us keep the kind of innovation and the pace of that going. So I think there's lots involved, and some of it I suppose is unknown in terms of how the pandemic will finish out, and hopefully it will soon.
I love the idea, that you want to motivate people to come to work by basically having better collaboration zones and collaboration spaces in the office, so that there's not a reason to go to work because sitting in front of your PC, which you could do at home, but having a really reason to meet your colleagues and to innovate and work together. And maybe, can you tell us what percentage of how many people take this upper radio? Are the majority of employees still working from home? I mean, what has been the trends you've seen in the last few months?
Yeah, I mean, the majority of our staff are still working from home. Like, I've been to our London headquarters, I've been to our Lithuania office, and very few are coming in yet. Very few are coming into our Dublin office. So we're leaving people the choice. And right now they're enjoying working from home. But I think it's good to have the offices back open. I would see us using the offices more. I think in each country, it maybe depends on how the pandemic is progressing. In Ireland, again, people might not want to go to the office. Hopefully that kind of changes a little bit in the next couple of months. But we will be encouraging people to go back, because I think there is something to be gained from that social connection and that cross-collaboration teams that it just doesn't have to be structured in the office, because you can just have a water cooler moment or a chat to someone. Whereas when you're on a video call, everything is pre-booked, preordained, and I think it's just less spontaneous. It doesn't mean you can't be successful, as we've seen in the last 18 months, but I do believe there's a big role for the office still.
I agree. I think that's something which we have seen, in other companies as well. And what one thing I think that we also have seen is, of course, this new renewed focus on the environment, on ESG goals, with COP26 now taking place. And what are your priorities, within Revolut to look at those themes, to know how does it impact what you're doing, what you're planning to do, just reviewing, all what we've learned, what happens across in Glasgow at the moment.
Yeah, like the partnership with Watershed is one of the big initiatives for us that we want to kind of, and this is very complicated to do it well, but to really understand our own carbon footprint and then to make plans around how we're going to contribute to reduce that. We're also part of a alliance of tech companies in the UK to achieve net zero as well. So I think it's going to take a big effort. I think as a young firm, you could fall into the assumption that it's not part of your job because you're not a big, large organization like maybe other incumbents in the industry, but we will become large in time. So, and this is a problem on a kind of existential scale. So every organization needs to play its part, and that's what we'll be looking to do.
I think when we think about, the topic of the Fireside Chat is about the global trends, about the future of global digital banking. And I wanted to ask you, what is your perspective? I mean, as head of Revolut in Europe, where do you see the future of digital banking, and where do you see the role you want to play in Revolut?
Yeah, I think well, we're a big believer in the concept and this vision we have about creating a global financial super app. So we think that this could be very, very powerful. And our vision is broader than just a traditional financial services products. It's about enabling customers and how they deal with money. So we launched a service recently called Stays, where you can book hotel trips through the app and get a 10% immediate cashback. And that gives you an example of something that's, can be added as an ancillary service that enables or gives a clear financial benefit to a customer. But it's not a traditional financial services product. So the app is powerful. It's designed to be flexible and adaptable. We could take it to any country in the world and adapt it for the local market needs and market circumstances in order to make it relevant for consumers there, and also adapt it for that country's regulation and requirements. Now that's huge flexibility if you've got it, and then to be able to continue to develop that to a level where it becomes more and more compelling. Like each market we go to, there's a different environment, a different landscape, and it requires you to adjust and adapt if you want to succeed there. So we've had great success in Ireland, but we're at different stages of growth and success in other countries, and that's really the exciting thing about the opportunity across Europe. I think clearly some commentators and people think that specialist providers will dominate, that maybe Revolut was only going to be for your payment account and some other app will only be for something else, and that people will hop around to different specialist services. And we don't really believe that. We think that being able to do multiple things in the one app is really the most convenient thing. So why would I be jumping around from service to service, company to company, if I can do it all in one app? So I think that's pretty exciting, and that's what you can expect to see from Revolut looking forward. I think the other big trend, though, is I think consumers are going to get more and more control over their money, more control over their finances, and I think digital capability lets them do that, because it's so easy. You can do so much from this device that sits in your pocket. So I think customers will be able to send their money either or spend or transmit it around the world and buy things on websites wherever they want in the world. So much more easily and securely than they have been in the past. I think you'll see some traditional barriers to entry to certain markets start to drop, whether that's because scale players can offer things cheaper, and then the fees and charges piece goes away as a barrier to some services. I think we'll see more of that. I think there'll be more to come on instant payments, because in some markets instant payments is new, and therefore there's more services I think that are going to come to life there. And then lastly, I would say open banking is really probably in its infancy in terms of what it could do. I mean, in the Revolut app, in some countries, you can aggregate in your accounts from other banks now, and you can use one budgeting and analytics tool in our app to analyze all your spend and really understand what's going on with your money. So some of our customers really love that. It sounds simple, but in some countries you can't do it. So that allows them to do much better personal financial management, puts them in more control, and we'll take that on to things like net worth statements and other ideas. So I think, these are some big trends, and you look in 1 year ahead into 2022, what can we do about them? Well, we can keep the velocity up of launching new products for our customers and taking them to new countries. If we're on a slower rollout, so we have launched loans and credit cards in a couple of European markets. We want to bring that to Ireland, so that's very much something we plan to do early next year. But we want to tell our story to as many customers as possible, so that's a challenge for us. We've, as I said, we huge success in Ireland, but and good success in other countries, but they might have a bigger population, so there's a lot more we can do in those countries. We have relied very much to date on word of mouth and consumers recommending us, but it may be coming to a time when we decide to start spending more money on marketing, and in some countries will present a good opportunity for return for us in that way.
I'm very excited about your plan to create a super app, and a financial super app, because I think in Europe we don't have one yet. I know we've got 2 at least super apps in China, in Asia. I'm on one of them on WeChat. I've been using WeChat when I was in China myself a few years ago before the pandemic, and I could see how useful it was, and how easy it was for consumers. And we've got more than 1 billion people using these apps in Asia, which is incredible. And how would you describe yourself compared to those existing super apps in Asia? What would you make differently because of the audience? Also here in Europe as a first launch territories, and what would be similar? How would you differentiate yourself?
Yeah, if someone was to really spend a bit of time in our app, let's say here, this audience in Ireland, and look at the number of things that are in there that you can do, there's already quite a lot of things in there. So we feel we're probably an early mover in Europe in terms of the super app concept, in terms of doing basic payments and transfers and FX, and having subscription accounts where you can pay to get extra things, having insurance products in there. Now having more deals in there for consumers, so where businesses can offer discounts and attract our customer base, our retail customer base, to spend with them. Introducing share trading and kind of having low fees and fractional share trades as an option in markets where they weren't available prior to Revolut launching them. So we're already kind of building quite a rich experience for customers now. The other kind of big feature about, so you can obviously keep adding in these different types of services, you say, and it'll start in time. It could feel like you can't do without it. If that's the way it gets to in Asia. I think the other side of it is the reach, and just how deep does your penetration get. So that's really interesting as well. Like, can we achieve that as a company in Europe? Ireland is one of those places where we're really far along in that. So that's an interesting case study for us. What happens and what can we do with that reach when we achieve it? And then it obviously gives you the encouragement to say, well, if we can do it here, can we do it elsewhere? And obviously other markets are different, and they might be more competitors, more other established players, or competitors more like us, which means you're up against a tougher competitive environment. But I think there's definitely potential for these apps to work. I think Revolut's in prime or pole position in Europe, and of course then we think that from our research we think we can also succeed with this concept in other countries as well.
Fantastic show. And I think we're coming to the end of our fireside chat, and I want to thank you for being so honest with all of us, for sharing the strategic priorities of Revolut going forward, and of telling us more about the super app you're building, which I think is something which both your B2B, your business, and your retail clients are really excited about. And I think also what I thought was very helpful to learn more about is how the future of work is changing, and how you make it better, more attractive for your employees to be excited. Because as you said at the beginning, Revolut can only become as good as its employees are, and as good as the talent pool you've got, has to be supported, in this new world of work, in order to innovate globally and to achieve your global aspirations. So Joe, thank you so much for joining us today. It was exciting to have you, and I'm sure our whole audience enjoyed really to learn more about Revolut, and I'm sure we are looking forward to the future news and updates, on social media, and I'm sure lots of the audience members are already, clients of you as well. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Suzanne. Bye-bye.
Thank you, bye-bye.